The story of the Washington quarter dollar in 1989 is deeply connected to the long evolution of this iconic American coin, a design that began more than half a century earlier and continued to hold its place in the pockets of millions of Americans by the time the year 1989 arrived. To understand the significance of the 1989 Washington quarter, we must go back to the origins of the series, which trace back to 1932, a year chosen to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington. America's first president, the United States Mint, sought to replace the standing Liberty quarter and launch a new design that symbolized strength, duty, and the historic leadership of Washington himself. The coin's obverse, created by sculptor John Flanagan, featured a profile portrait of George Washington, a design that became one of the most recognized in United States coinage and remained untouched for decades. The reverse displayed the American eagle wings, outstretched, perched, on a bundle of arrows with olive branches below, symbolizing the balance between readiness for defense and the hope for peace. This design would continue unchanged until the dramatic shift in the year 1999, when the 50-state quarters program began. But in 1989, the classic eagle reverse was still in full use, and the Washington quarter remained a staple of circulation, while the early years of the quarter from 1932 to 1964 were struck in 90% silver. Everything changed in 1965. When the Mint transitioned to the copper-nickel-clad composition due to rising silver prices, by the time 1989 arrived, the Washington quarter had already been a clad coin for 24 years, and millions were produced annually, making it one of the most common denominations used in daily commerce. The year 1989 saw quarters struck at two facilities, the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint, with the Philadelphia coins carrying no mint mark, and the Denver coins carrying the letter D on the obverse, just to the right of Washington's ribbon tie. Although San Francisco also produced quarters that year, they were specially made proof coins, not intended for regular circulation. These proof coins were struck with mirrored fields, sharp details, and a brilliant polished finish. Cherished by collectors, the Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of Washington quarters in 1989, and these were coins often received in change at supermarkets, gas stations, and everyday transactions. The Denver Mint also produced a massive number, making 1989 a year where the quarter remained strong, stable, and widely available. The overall design remained consistent with earlier clad issues, but the look and strike quality could vary depending on the mint and die condition. In 1989, numismatic interest began to rise as more collectors paid closer attention to small details, learning that even modern coins could have varieties, errors, or high-grade rarities. Collectors of today look back at 1989 quarters with interest for high-grade specimens, mint state 67 and above, because these are difficult to locate due to the heavy circulation that most 1989 quarters experienced. Some of the most notable areas of interest for collectors include strike-quality surface preservation and clarity of the eagle's feathers on the reverse, which often wore down quickly on heavily circulated examples. One fascinating element of the 1989 quarters history is that it represents the final decade of the classic eagle reverse, which had been in use for more than 60 years. The series was soon to be transformed by one of the most successful programs in numismatic history, the statehood quarter program, beginning in 1999, meaning that 1989 sits near the end of an era, a period where Washington quarters had a consistent, familiar design known across generations. Throughout the 1980s, the Washington quarter remained a symbol of daily American life, used in vending machines, payphones, laundromats, and transportation systems, a true workhorse of the economy, while older silver quarters were becoming collectible and sought after. The 1989 quarter represented the modern era of coinage, durable, plentiful, and practical in circulation. The proof versions struck in San Francisco carried the S Mint mark and were included in annual proof sets purchased by collectors. Proof sets from 1989 are widely available. Today, yet high-grade proof examples, free of imperfections or haze, remain desirable. The making of the 1989 quarter also reflects the Mint's continued effort to refine its production technology. Throughout the 1980s, the Mint regularly updated machinery tools and quality control processes, understanding that American coinage had to meet the growing demands of commerce while also satisfying the rising expectations of collectors. Though the 1989 quarter may seem like an everyday, common piece of change, it carries within it the weight of history and the story of a nation moving toward the end of the 20th century, a time of new technology, economic growth, and cultural change. The Washington quarter was part of that journey, a small coin, yet one handled by millions, from school children to workers, soldiers, and families across the nation. When examining a 1989 Washington quarter, one can see more than its date: the portrait of Washington. Staring calmly forward, the eagle still perched powerfully on the reverse, and the clad layers that reveal the evolution of American coinage. The story of the Washington quarter is not just about metal, it is about the people who used it, the artists who designed it, the mints that produced it, and the historical events that shaped its evolution. The 1989 quarter stands today as a reminder of the final years of the classic era, just before America entered a new phase of commemorative coinage programs. Although it is a common coin in circulated condition, its historical significance continues to grow as collectors appreciate the continuity, stability, and symbolism. This design carried for more than 6 decades, from everyday transactions to numismatic collections. The 1989 Washington quarter remains an enduring part of American history and serves as a bridge between the original 1932 vision and the modern age of themed and commemorative quarters that reshaped how people viewed and collected U.S. coinage. The story of the 1989 quarter is therefore a story of transition heritage and the lasting legacy of George Washington's image as it continued to capture the spirit of a nation. As we continue exploring the history of the Washington quarter dollar from 1989, we must look deeper into how the coin fit into the broader timeline of American numismatics and how economic, political, and technological changes influenced its production. By the late 1980s, the United States was experiencing a period of economic expansion following the difficulties of the 1970s. Inflation had stabilized, and the Mint was operating with improved efficiency to meet the country's growing demand for circulating coinage. Millions of transactions relied on quarters every single day, and the Washington quarter remained at the center of commercial activity. Vending machines, arcade games, parking meters, payphones, and countless other machines depended on the reliable size, weight, and metallic consistency of the quarter. The coin's specifications had been unchanged since the 1965 switch to copper-nickel clad, and its durability made it ideal for constant high-volume use. While many people took the 1989 quarter for granted, it was in fact the result of decades of experimentation and refinement in coin production. Throughout the 1960s and 1970s, the Mint had struggled to balance the need for durable coins with rising metal costs. The clad composition, introduced in 1965, was a major technological achievement, bonding layers of copper and nickel into a single disc that resisted wear and maintained a bright silvery appearance. By the time 1989 arrived, the Mint had mastered this clad coinage process, leading to more efficient die life, sharper details, and smoother striking. The Mint's industrial processes in 1989 were far more advanced than they had been.